Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donahue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donahue, and my cohort and creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. This is a special replay of our Betsy DeVos episode. Do you want to give them a preview of who this woman is and why we talked about her and what she's been up to lately, in addition to what we talk about in the show?
Yeah, she's a garbage person. The too long didn't read version is she's our Secretary of Education, even though she has never attended a public school. This is someone who should be championing public education, and she never had any interest in improving public education. She was constantly channeling funds and support into private schools and into charter schools. She's a real piece of work. And we decided to re-release this because I don't know if you've heard, but we have a new president. And that means we're going to get a new cabinet. And bye-bye, Betsy. Bye. Bye. Nice knowing you. Some of the updates. In September, she actually had to quietly drop this decision. She was taking money that was passed for coronavirus aid to schools. She was trying to funnel a majority of it into private schools instead of the public schools that actually need it, because she's a garbage person. So that happened. There's also, I don't know if this happened after we recorded this episode or not, but she also rescinded an Obama era guideline that instructed schools not to punish minority students more harshly than white ones.
Oh my God.
That was something she did. And she also ignored a court order and continued to collect loan payments from students from a defunct, fraudulent for-profit university. And she did it over 16,000 times.
Oh my, I'm speechless.
Yeah, she's awful. And then, when you listen to the episode, you'll hear she was constantly promoting charter private religious schools, ignoring public education. She reduced protections for victims of sexual assault, minority students, and gay and trans students. She's a real piece of shit.
Yeah, Bye Bye Betsy was trending pretty soon on Saturday afternoon because now that we have a new president-elect, we're going to have a new cabinet. And today, by the way, Ben Carson, what is he, the HUD?
Yeah, Housing,
Urban Development.
Right.
He has COVID. And that's because he attended an election night party where everybody went Tuesday night last week and wasn't wearing masks.
It's the worst fucking party favor ever.
It just sucks. It's all just, that's a huge garbage fire. And he actually might have to be an episode one of these days.
For sure. Everybody check your gift bags. You get a virus. You get a virus. What a bummer party that must have been.
We wanted to replay this episode for you because Betsy DeVos is just a special type of garbage. And the fact that she got through and has served for 4 years now, it's astonishing in a bad way. And we're just really glad that she's going to be gone. And if you just check the Twitter feeds about her, teachers hate her. All people hate her. She was just the worst. And it's a corrupt administration. And you can hear why in this episode. And if you don't agree with us, too fucking bad. Because he's gone and she's gone.
What is, I think, hilarious is she's so terrible that we actually all know who the Secretary of Education is.
Right. Which I've never known before, by the way.
By the way, not a controversial position.
No.
Usually. But she's so shitty that she has to have 24-hour guards because she's such a fucking monster that people hate her so much that we the taxpayers have to pay for someone to guard her. Right. Because she's so awful. But Biden has won. Our president hasn't conceded because he's not going to. But he has already promised to triple the spending for for education, and he's already talking about like targeting high poverty schools and doubling the number of like psychologists and counselors and nurses and social workers and like building up the infrastructure. These are all things our schools need so bad. And he also said, and this hits me in my special place, he's going to dramatically increase federal funding for special education, which is also something we all need really bad in our schools. So I'm, for the first time in a long time, feeling cautiously optimistic.
But his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, was a school teacher, or?
I think she still is. She's an English professor at a community college in Virginia.
That is so
I
cool.
believe. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
She's rad.
Right.
She's super smart.
So you guys, that's why we wanted to record this intro. And so we're going to go into that episode right now. Thank you so much for subscribing to the podcast, for retweeting and following us on Instagram and all that stuff. We really, really appreciate it. Our new episode drops this Friday. It's going to be Whitey Bulger. He is a famous Boston mobster. He is a terrifying piece of garbage. It'll be really fun to talk about. So here we go with our episode, our replay episode of Betsy DeVos.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donahue, and with me co-hosting this creepitude, as always, every week, is my friend Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hey, my friend. We had a wacky week last week, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
last
let's
week.
see. I know. What's going to happen this week?
Do we have powers, divine powers we didn't know about? Jesus. This week we are talking about Betsy DeVos. But first, I just want to let you guys know this is the What a Creep podcast. We pick a different creep every week. Sonia and I take turns telling a story about a creep. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at What a Creep Podcast. On Twitter, you just follow us at CreepPod. And if you get your podcasts in Apple Podcasts, if you could leave us a few stars and a review, that'd be amazing. Sonia, we got another 5-star review. We've been getting them every week, which is so amazing.
People like us.
They do like us. And that it was from Cassandra R. So thank you, Cassandra. If you have any comments or suggestions, or if you'd like some stickers, you can feel free to email us at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. We are planning to get our Patreon page together. We promise you guys
It's happening.
It's happening. We are getting on top of that. But I guess today we'll get right into it. Sonia, it's your turn. So tell us all about Betsy DeVos.
She sucks. The end. No, I'm just kidding. So I put this together with a little help from our friends at, and this is kind of a long list, you guys, Mother Jones, Wikipedia, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Snopes, I had to do some digging, CBS News, CNN, The Atlantic, Education Post, and Education Votes, which is part of the National Education Association. And there is an amazing interview with Betsy DeVos Betsy DeVos on 60 Minutes by Leslie Stahl, and it's a fucking train wreck. Like, it's bananas. Anyway, it's a lot of sources, I know, but I wanted to make sure that I was hitting all the stuff.
Yeah, and we put all the sources in our show notes, so you swipe down, I believe it is, and then you can read all of them and you can click them for yourselves. And also you can find it on the post on Libsyn and on Brooklyn Fit Check. I post all of our shows there. So we do source everything and we cite our sources.
Right, and if you swipe right, then you get a date with another creep. So watch out.
This is why I'm single. I don't know how those things work.
I also don't know how they work. Maybe it's swipe left. I don't know. So, in the spirit of education, I'm going to start with my thesis statement. Betsy DeVos is the Secretary of Education, and she's an ignorant, privileged creep who only cares about the education of rich, white, Christian, heterosexual, non-disabled, and neurotypical kids. That is my thesis. Do you know how shitty of a person you have to be considered one of the worst people in Predator Trump's cabinet?
It's pretty bad.
Pretty fucking shitty. So let's start at the beginning. Elizabeth D. Prince was born on January 8th, 1958 in Holland, Michigan. She's the eldest of 4 children, one of which is Eric Prince. the founder of Blackwater. It's a private military company that had huge contracts with the Iraq War. And if they sound familiar, it's because a group of its employees were convicted of killing 14 Iraqi civilians and injuring 20 in a court in 2007. We could do a whole other episode on Eric Prince.
Yeah.
Seriously, fuck that guy. He's a creep. Her father was Edgar Prince, who owned Prince Corporation, not Prince the musician, Prince Corporation, a billion-dollar company that manufactured auto parts. He also co-founded the Family Research Council, which is a real piece of shit organization that works to, quote, advance faith, family, and freedom in public policy and the culture from a Christian worldview. ACLU has labeled it an anti-gay hate group, and it pours money into fighting against gay rights, abortion, stem cell research, among other things.
Also, they attacked Howard Stern like crazy.
Really?
When he was on terrestrial radio, yeah. Oh, yeah. They went after him.
Oh, nice. So, in other words, being a garbage human being runs in the family. That was my point. Betsy DeVos, who, keep in mind, is now the Secretary of Education, which I said, has never attended a public school. She attended Holland Christian High School, a private school in Holland, Michigan, and graduated from a private Christian liberal arts college, Calvin College, in Grand Rapids, Michigan. She has a degree in business economics. She is married to Dick DeVos. I could call him Richard, but I'm just going to call him Dick. A former CEO of Amway, of course.
Oh, my God.
And they have 4 children, also none of which have attended a public school. It really is a marriage made in bigot heaven. Amway loves to give money to anti-gay rights organizations and candidates, and Betsy and her family love that stuff too, so they have so much in common. Their family reunions are probably a real blast.
But the music sucks.
I know, but the music is so shitty, it's all Kid Rock. In 1989, Betsy and her dick, that's what I wrote here, founded WindQuest Group, which invests in technology, manufacturing, and strangely, clean energy. This kind of surprised me. And I thought you might love this one, Margot. They invested $100 million in a little blood testing company called Theranos.
Season 1, episode 2 or 3, I believe that was.
That's right.
Elizabeth Holmes, yep.
LOL. You can guess what happened to their money. Apparently, they have a real talent for picking shitty investments because they also produced a Broadway show called Scandalous, The Life and Trials of Amy Semple McPherson. Do you know this?
Yeah.
Okay, based on the life of a famous evangelist, and it's featuring a book and lyrics written by Kathy Lee Gifford. Yes, Kathy Lee Gifford. The show ran for 3 whole weeks in 2012. I was surprised to read it lasted that long, to be honest. Betsy and her husband also are investors in something called NeuroCore, which is a brain performance company. Yeah, I know. This was all new to me. She gave up her seat on the board when she joined Predator Trump's cabinet, but she and her husband maintain a financial stake, which is between $5 million and $25 million, according to the Office of Government Ethics. So NerdCore operates under this idea that you can, quote, train your brain to function better.
Right.
Like, maybe, I don't know. It's addressing problems like attention deficit disorder, autism, anxiety, stress, depression, memory loss, migraines, poor sleep, and they charge a lot for it, of course. But according to the New York Times, quote, NeuroCore has not published its results in peer-reviewed medical literature. Its techniques, including mapping brain waves to diagnose problems and using neurofeedback to treat them, are not considered standards for care for the majority of the disorders it treats, including autism. Social workers, not doctors, perform the assessments, and low-paid technicians with little training apply the methods to patients, including children with complex problems. And they interviewed,
oh my God.
I know, they interviewed a dozen psychiatrists and psychologists with expertise in autism and attention deficit disorder, and they all expressed concerns, and they just very opposed to this organization.
Okay.
I'm not an expert, but it sounds like this is just one of those, like, there's parents who are, they really worry about their kids and they will do anything to, these are like vulnerable people.
Yeah, no, and it sounds like Scientology to me.
Oh, yeah, it does
like
to me too.
Trying to rethink your brain and it only costs you $100,000 to do it. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that they're very desperate to help their kids to, quote unquote, cure their kids of autism in particular. Mm-hmm. They want to keep them off meds, things like that, and they'll try anything. And this is one of those things that people are trying. It is quite expensive. Mm-hmm. Surprise. So when they're not funding Christian schools or taking money from worried parents, Betsy and her husband are making it more difficult to unionize. A little other thing I learned about her in my research. According to Mother Jones, Betsy and her dick, I did this a lot, pushed a right-to-work legislation, which when you hear the word right to work, you're like, oh, I like that. But actually what it does is it outlaws contracts that require employees to pay union dues. And without union dues, unions can't really do what they need to do. So by doing that, you essentially kill unions. So they put all this money and campaigning into this bill, and it actually became law in 2012. So they busted up a ton of unions. And now 27 states have, quote, right-to-work laws on the books. And here's a big surprise. Who do you think it impacts the most? Teachers.
Teachers, yeah.
Teacher unions. They are one of the most powerful lobby groups in the country for public schools, and they're against charter schools. And Betsy DeVos's big thing is charter schools. So, what a coincidence.
Right.
She is a lifelong Republican. I don't think that makes her a creep. She volunteered for Gerald Ford's presidential campaign. She attended the 1976 Republican National Convention. She served as a local precinct delegate for the Michigan Republican Party. She was elected 16 consecutive two-year terms since 1986. She was a Republican National Committee woman for Michigan between 92 and 97. And she served as the chairwoman of the Michigan Republican Party from 96 to 2000. So she's raised millions of dollars for the GOP throughout the years. She's big money.
Yeah.
So funny enough, before accepting Predator Trump's offer of being Secretary of Education, she was actually really critical of him. She donated to Jeb Bush.
Oh, wow. Really?
Oh, Jeb Bush. What innocent times those were. Carly Fiorina, and then that big tool, Marco Rubio. And then at the Republican National Convention, she actually cast her vote for John Kasich. And she said that Trump was a, quote, interloper, and that, quote, he does not represent the Republican Party. But I wonder why she changed her mind. So weird. So let's get into some of the real shit. I'm going to take a sip of my beer here. This is important.
I'm going to take a sip of wine.
Okay. When Predator Trump announced her as his pick for Secretary of Education, it did not go well. Understatement. The confirmation was really, really brutal. And the vice president and gay icon, Mike Pence, had to cast a tie-breaking vote to get her confirmed. Her confirmation by the Senate was the first in U.S. history to require a vice president to break the tie.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. Everyone fucking hates her, basically, is what I'm saying. So here's some of the stupid crap she said during the confirmation hearing. And she said a lot, so I just picked a couple. When asked whether she thought guns belonged in schools, she referred to schools in Wyoming and said, I would imagine that there's probably a gun in the schools to protect from potential grizzlies.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's super common. Happens all the time. Also under questioning, she didn't seem to understand that states can't, opt out of the federal, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So when asked if all the schools should be required to comply with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, she said, I think that's a matter best left to the states. And then Senator Tim Kaine, former VP candidate, said, so some states might be good to kids with disabilities and other states might not be so good. And what then? People can just move around the country if they don't like how their kids are being treated. And she said, I think that's an issue best left to the states.
Oh, God.
By the way, states' rights and this is best left to the states, that's her fucking jam. She goes to it all the time. It is like her signature move. She goes back to it. So
and she's supposed to represent the whole country, correct? Or am I wrong?
Yes. This is what, yeah. I can't even tell you how angry I got working on this because, and I have it somewhere in here in my notes, so I might end up repeating myself, but she is someone who is supposed to be the biggest advocate for public education. That's your role, you asshole. Like, right. You are supposed to be helping public education and help the teachers and the students, but she doesn't. She just fucking undermines them like every chance she gets. I'm going to get into it in a little bit more, but yeah, okay. She's a huge asshole. And she is supposed to be representing everybody, but she doesn't, clearly. So back to her states' rights, or her favorite jam. So in May 2017, she was in a House of Representatives committee hearing. And one of these other representatives, Catherine Clark, I think she's from Indiana, said that there was a school in Indiana, like a private school, takes publicly funded vouchers, but it denies admission to LGBT students or students who come from families with, quote, homosexual or bisexual activity. So
parents.
Exactly. So
right.
The representative asked, like, would you inform the school that it's not allowed to discriminate in that way if it's accepting federal funding? And then she asked, how would you respond if a voucher school rejected black students, but a state said it was fine? And she just, again, said, like, well, again, the Office of Civil Rights and our Title IX protections are broadly applicable across the board, but it comes down to parents making choices on behalf of their students. And then Clark interrupts her and says, this isn't about parents making choices. This is about the use of federal dollars for discrimination. You know, would you? Yeah. And then DeVos just responds with, like, I believe states continue to have flexibility in putting together programs. It's just...
No, it's a non-sentence. Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm going to lose it.
I know. She's a huge asshole. So let's go back to my thesis. I'm going to repeat it loud enough so the people in the back can hear. Betsy DeVos only cares about rich, white, Christian, heterosexual, non-disabled, neurotypical children. Anyone who doesn't fit that mold is not worthy in her eyes. She can say that she cares about students all she wants, but her actions tell a very different story. So we're going to talk about her main focus. So Betsy's big thing is school choice, quote unquote, school choice. It sounds super harmless, but it's not. What she really means is rich people, and it's rich people, can take their kids out of public school and put them in private school. And then the funding that would have gone to the public school will now go to that private school. So it's funneling taxpayer money away from public schools into private, i.e. Christian schools.
Right.
This results in all the public schools having less funding, less resources, while all the rich white kids go to private school. And they're getting additional funding thanks to all their new taxpayer money. Yeah. It's fucked up. She, in that interview in 60 Minutes that I mentioned before, she talks about how, like, somehow taking students and money from public schools benefits those schools. And it is the most ignorant, stupid thing you've ever heard. Seriously, everyone should go and watch it. There's even, like, a clip where, like, Colbert just plays clips and makes fun of her. That's probably the best way to watch it, actually.
Okay.
Like, because it's like a little bit of sugar to make the medicine go down.
I don't know if any of you caught 60 Minutes last night. Did you guys watch any of that last night? Very popular show. Check it out sometime. But there was a fascinating interview with Secretary of Education and garden party guest from Get Out, Betsy DeVos. DeVos sat down with Leslie Stahl, who asked DeVos about plans to take funding away from struggling public schools.
Why take money away from that school that's not working to bring them up to a level where that school is working?
Well, we should be funding and investing in students, not in school buildings.
You know the students are in the buildings, right? We don't just release the students into the wild and say, don't come back until you know trigonometry, young man. Buildings are where the classrooms are, and the lockers, and the cafeteria, and the gym, and the stairway where Mr. Rizzuto goes to cry. We don't ask why, but it did start right after Ms. Mazuski left. Now, yeah, there's a story there, isn't there? DeVos's theory is that if you take money away from public schools and give it to charter schools, that will somehow help the public schools. It's a system called stupid. And Stahl pointed out, a lot of people believe in the stupid. More stupid. And Stahl pointed out that this didn't work in DeVos's home state of Michigan.
The argument that if you take funds away, that the schools will get better is not working in Michigan, where you had a huge impact and influence over the direction of the school system here.
I hesitate to talk about all schools in general because schools are made up of individual students attending them.
I hesitate to talk about how dumb that sentence is in general because it's made up of all the dumb individual words within it. Also, Secretary, your job is to talk about schools in general, not individual students. That's why you run the Department of Education and not the Department of Jennifer. And I'm worried about Jennifer. And Secretary DeVos admitted that she hasn't really done her job.
The public schools here are doing worse than they did.
Michigan schools need to do better. There is no doubt about it.
Have you seen the really bad schools? Maybe try to figure out what they're doing?
I have not intentionally visited schools that are underperforming.
So you've accidentally visited them? You know how it is. You had a few too many, end up wandering into a school zone, then wake up the next day and go, oh, God, who did I help last night? Poor kids? Egg on my face. Because they threw eggs at me. Also, why haven't you visited underperforming schools? That's part of your job. That's like a doctor saying, I have not intentionally visited sick patients. I give all their medicine to the healthy patients, and that gives them an incentive to get better. In the end, Betsy DeVos acknowledged that she's not one of the popular kids.
Why have you become, people say, the most hated cabinet secretary?
I'm not so sure how exactly that happened.
Really? Then you should check out last night's 60 Minutes. We'll be right back.
So the Dick and Betsy DeVos Foundation also gives money to groups like the American Education Reform Council, Choices for Children, and Children First America. These are all bullshit names for organizations that donate money to Christian, rich, white schools in Michigan. And there's a really great Mother Jones article in the show notes that details all the money that they give donating to all these religious organizations and schools. I couldn't possibly list them here. We'd run out of time. I also wanted to note that she believes in creationism.
No.
And she believes it should be taught in schools.
Oh, no.
And she also said that she wants to, quote, advance God's kingdom
Oh, God.
through our school district, which really goes against the whole separation of church and state thing. But, you know,
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Whatever.
Oh, for God's sakes.
She's really, really stupid. Have you seen her speak before?
Oh, yeah. She's an idiot.
She's a total idiot. She looks like she's got like crazy eyes, like those crazy like Michelle Bachmann eyes. Like
Or Ramona on Little Housewives of New York. Ramona eyes.
Thank you for putting it in terms I can understand. Now. So she's not an advocate for school choice at all. This is her thing. She'll go around and say she is, but she isn't. She's an advocate for increasing school segregation by religion and income levels because she only cares about the education of rich, white, Christian, heterosexual, non-disabled, neurotypical kids.
Right.
Yes. Also, the school choice shit, it doesn't work. According to the New York Times, DeVos is, quote, one of the architects of Detroit's charter school system, and it's one that downplays regulation and accountability while draining resources from public schools. And even some privatization advocates have described it as, quote, one of the biggest school reform disasters in the country.
Jesus.
And this is the shit she's trying to push on the whole country.
Wow.
In March 2017, she proposed $9 billion in cuts to education, including after-school programs, career and technical education, and programs to hire and train teachers. And surprise, the budget pushes the school choice agenda with $250 million for vouchers.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, the budget is such bullshit that even the Republican-controlled Congress rejects it. That's how fucked up her budget was. That even they were like, huh? No, that's fucked up. Over the years, she'll do this, like, we have to make tough choices. Right now it's time for tough choices. We just don't have that much money, blah, blah, blah. But there's never budget for, like, after-school care, hiring teachers, paying teachers more, all those things. But there's always, like, more than enough budget for her pet projects.
Right.
It's so funny how that happens. It's a total coincidence, you guys. But she's not giving up. Earlier this year, she once again pushed to expand her federal voucher investing to $50 billion in private school vouchers over 10 years, but cut education spending by $8.5 billion by 2020.
Jesus Christ.
It would end funding for dozens of programs that help public schools, and this includes teacher development, academic support and enrichment, and after-school activities, because who needs that shit?
Right.
It is fucking bananas that she is our Secretary of Education. And this is what I said. She should be the country's biggest advocate for public schools. But
Right.
instead, she is constantly looking for ways to undermine public schools, and she's promoting for-profit education models. So, school is only for rich people. And this is true of Trump's administration, all of his cabinet, like everything that's going on right now. It's all about punching down. It's about making things more difficult for our most vulnerable citizens. And Betsy is no different. She makes things more difficult for our most vulnerable kids because she only cares about rich, white, Christian, heterosexual, non-disabled, neurotypical kids.
Right.
So one of her first acts as Secretary of Education was to roll back the protections for transgender kids in school.
Oh, my God.
Can you imagine? There's literally people walking into schools and murdering students, and this is the thing she deemed the top priority.
Right, right. Where kids go to the bathroom.
Yeah, this huge.
Oh, my God.
Get yourself a bulletproof backpack, kids, but don't worry. People will pee in the bathrooms they're supposed to. It's fucking stupid. It's stupid.
Right.
And when I say they're supposed to, I mean they think they're supposed to, not me,
Right, right.
obviously.
Right, no.
Yeah. Yes, I'm a huge bigot, everybody. She has tried to defund the Special Olympics twice.
Come on.
Twice. It's so evil.
God, eugenics. Like, we were talking about this with other people, like Jeffrey Epstein last week. Yeah, she's been one of those people.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, why are we helping mentally disabled people? What would be the point of that?
Yeah. The shit is so evil that, once again, even Republican senators were like, that's some evil shit. And they voted against it. And just earlier this year, she proposed cutting $18 million in funding to Special Olympics. And when asked if she knew how many kids would be impacted, she responded that she doesn't know the number of kids. Do you know why she doesn't know?
She doesn't care.
Yeah, she doesn't give a shit.
She doesn't give a shit.
I looked it up. It's 272,000 kids would be impacted. But it didn't happen because even Republicans in Congress were like, that's fucked up.
Even the predator in chief was like, yeah, I can't overcome this. No.
Right. Well, he's probably the one that came up with it, and then he just threw it under the bus. But damn. Not once. Twice. You tried to cut Special Olympics. That's terrible.
Oy.
She has cut funding for special education. She has rolled back protections for disabled kids that were all provided under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. That's the very thing that Senator Kaine was asking her about during her confirmation hearing. Under that act, schools, they're required to evaluate children with disabilities, and then they create programs with parents' input that try to mirror as closely as possible the programs of non-disabled children. So, like, if a child has a instructional education plan and they're in a special day class, maybe they would mainstream with, like, math and art, but then they have their special class that they're in as well. Stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So according to Education Post, she has rescinded 72 regulations that were under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. She's the fucking worst. I mean, she just goes after the people who need the support the most. Mm. But she has helped some students. If you're a male student who's accused of rape on a college campus.
God.
Yeah. She rolled back Obama-era regulations to help how to handle sexual assaults on college campuses, because apparently no one was thinking about the real victims, the accused men. These were protections that were under something called Title IX.
Yes.
And she said that, quote, any perceived offense can become a full-blown Title IX investigation, but if everything is harassment, then nothing is.
She says such stupid shit.
What
like
the
it's
fuck
like
does
it's
that
deep.
mean?
It means nothing. It's just her. It's a word soup. It just, ugh.
It's so fucking gross. I mean, I took it as translation. We will have less sexual assault on campuses if you stop reporting it so much.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly it. And you know what? Like, okay, maybe 1% would put in a false report.
Right.
Maybe, I'll even give you 5%. Maybe that. That's still 95%. It's an actual assault, and it needs to be taken care of. And you're in a vulnerable place, and you need help. And oh my God, this woman's such a shit.
She is so fucking terrible. It's just, once again, like, was there a big outcry for this? Probably not.
Right.
Like, there was probably some very vocal, rich white people that cared about this because it turned out Johnny's a date rapist and he got kicked out of college and now, his life is ruined, or whatever. It's fucking
right.
Where did I leave off? Oh yeah. So the National Women's Law Center said that it's a green light to sweep sexual assault further under the rug. But she wasn't done with those pesky sexual assault victims. She also introduced regulations requiring cross-examination of victims of campus sexual assault, which will absolutely discourage survivors from coming forward. Right. She also said that mediation is something that should happen. And that just fucking made my head explode because I was like, yeah, who doesn't want to do fucking therapy with their rapist? Basically.
What is she even talking about? It's a crime to commit a sexual assault.
I know. What, she
What's
thinks
the
mediation? She thinks they're gonna fucking work it out and get together? What?
No.
I don't know what she thinks.
Law. What the fuck does she think? It's ridiculous.
It boggles my mind.
People don't take it seriously.
No, they don't. They don't. Absolutely not. According to the Education Association, universities would be held less responsible, and the managing attorney for the Women's Law Project said that these policies would allow schools to ignore much of the sexual harassment that occurs in schools.
Which they did already.
Yeah. So cool.
Awesome.
I know. I'm going to take another sip of my beer, and then we're going to talk about money.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about money.
All right.
So she wants to rewrite the Obama. By the way, this is all about fuck you, Obama.
Yeah.
Let's roll back as many things as we can that Obama did. So she wants to rewrite the Obama-era rules that allow students who were defrauded by for-profit colleges to seek loan forgiveness. I wonder why.
All right.
So weird. She also wants to stop paying interest for lower-income students and get rid of the program that forgives loans for public servants. And according to the Washington Post, this will raise the cost of college by $200 billion.
Oh, for God's sake. Like, it's not expensive already.
Yeah. This would all happen within the next 10 years. So millions of people now, they would be forced to choose between college or not going into debt. And if they decide to borrow, then they will most likely live like almost in poverty, like a majority of young people already do today because of student loan debt.
Oh, my God.
And, of course, Betsy has financial ties to a lot of the companies that would collect on these loans.
No.
Yes. It's super cool and normal. This administration is the most fucking corrupt, evil thing. Every day, I'm like, now what? Like, it's just ridiculous.
Right.
So let's talk about school safety. So after the shooting at Stoneman Douglas High School in February 2018, it left 17 people dead and it injured 17 others. Betsy visited the school in Florida. Not surprising. She did nothing and said nothing. Some of the students were like doing like mad tweets. That one of them said, "You came to our school just for publicity and avoided our questions." And another one said, "Betsy DeVos came to my school, talked to 3 people, and pet a dog." That's all she did when she was there. I guess not doing anything and being useless went over well with Predator Trump. So he asked her to head like a school safety task force.
Oh, you gotta be kidding.
Yeah. And don't you feel safer already?
Oh, yeah. Honest to God, if I had a kid in school, I would be terrified.
I am super terrified.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
The result? No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please.
I was going to say the result was she proposes using federal grant money intended for academics and student programs to purchase firearms for teachers. That'll fix it.
It's going to turn into Deadwood.
Yeah, right. But after the public got wind of this, she backed away from that plan, which is good. But that doesn't mean she won't still try to push it. But ultimately, so instead of addressing gun laws, which is what she was supposed to do something for school safety, what she decided instead was the commission dismantled some of the students' like civil right protections, rolling back, let me guess, Obama-era policies, directing schools not to punish minority students at higher rates than white students. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? I don't know. FYI, almost all these school shooters have been white males.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I got no words. I refer you to my thesis statement. She only cares about rich, white, Christian, heterosexual, non-disabled, neurotypical children. Here's another example of how she doesn't give a shit about anyone who's not those things. In May 2017, she was asked to give a commencement address at a university. It is Bethune-Cookman University. Mm-hmm. It's a historically black university. More than 10,000 signatures were gathered, asking the school to rescind the invitation because she actually had proposed this budget that was going to like hurt this school and other schools like it, cutting $3.9 billion in Pell Grants, which a majority of those students rely on.
Yeah.
She also had referred to historically black colleges and universities as, quote, pioneers of choice, which is an obvious misrepresentation of their history. These colleges were started because white colleges wouldn't accept black students.
Yeah, because of racism, asshole.
That's not really a choice, asshole. She's so fucking stupid and ignorant.
She's such a dummy.
She was booed throughout the speech. More than half of the graduating class actually stood up and turned their backs to her while she spoke.
Good for them.
I know. And I was like, that is awesome. That's fucking rad. you might like this. So according to Unhinged, the tell-all book written by former White House aide Omarosa. Omarosa.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Betsy said that the black students, they just didn't get it.
Oh,
quote,
no.
They don't have the capacity to understand what we're trying to accomplish. Yeah. And Omarosa wrote, meaning all those black students were too stupid to understand her agenda.
You know what? I don't like Omarosa at all, but I think she tells the truth.
Yeah.
I don't think she would lie about that. I think, oh my God.
Isn't that crazy?
That's fucking evil.
She is really evil. She also wrote in her book, by the way, that Predator Chump, I'm not taking that back, refers to Betsy DeVos as Ditzy DeVos. Because he has,
I like that.
Because he has shitty nicknames for everyone. But that one, sure.
I like that one, actually. I'll give him that one.
Yeah. Good job, Trump. Or Chump. So presidential candidate Senator Elizabeth Warren said that Betsy DeVos is the worst Secretary of Education we've seen. Instead of championing our students, she protects for-profit colleges that break the law. And she is right. I can't even tell you how angry working on this one made me.
No, I can only imagine. Yeah.
So here's my little conclusion. So if you guys all can't tell, this creep's kind of personal for me. I am a mother of a 7-year-old autistic boy who goes to public school here in San Francisco, and the agenda that she pushes can and will directly impact the safety and education of my son. I am lucky because I live here in San Francisco, which tells Trump and his administration to fuck off on an almost daily basis. But other families aren't so lucky. You know, as Senator Kaine said, you can't just pick up and move.
Right.
You know, shit's expensive. We're all relying on public schools to support our children, no matter who they are. And she doesn't care. It should be for everyone, not just the rich, white, Christian, heterosexual, non-disabled, neurotypical children. Betsy DeVos is a fucking creep.
Well done, Sonia.
Thank you.
I mean, oh my God, that must have just enraged you. As a mother, you just must want to punch the walls when you read this.
And it's just so fucking shitty. I'm like, how can you be someone who just doesn't, I don't understand someone who can't care, someone who purposely tries to like take funding away from the most vulnerable kids we have.
When I was growing up in Long Island, my older brother Joe had severe dyslexia and mind-hand coordination issues, and had to go to a special school for that. And you pay high taxes in Long Island, and it's public education. And the teachers, like twice a year, met with my parents and say, okay, these are our goals for Joe. Tell us how you're doing. How's he doing? And my brother is one of the smartest people you'll ever meet. He's a super smart guy. He was in the Navy. He worked in nuclear subs. He reads everything in front of him. If he had just been in school like Betsy DeVos wants out there, they'd just be like, he's slow. He can't read. Forget him. He's clumsy and he's awkward. Forget him.
Mm-hmm. It's exactly it.
And it's so fucked up and wrong. I mean, it's because, people pay these taxes, but it goes to people that live in your towns who, by the way, grow up to become adults and interact with other humans. I mean, that's why we take care of kids.
Yeah, we're trying to raise like the next generation of decent human beings, and she's making it more difficult. And one of the things that also drives me insane, because I'm one of these parents, like I have a son with special needs. I rely on the Disabilities Act. You know, my son has one of those IEPs. You know, if for some reason the public schools were like not supporting him anymore, and even if I had the money to send him to a private school, which I totally don't, by the way, even though like I'm not at the poverty line, like I make, a normal amount, quote unquote. If I sent him to a charter school, these charter schools are not legally obligated to help him.
No, and the instructors at these things, by the way, my friend Margaret teaches public school. She teaches kindergarten, first grade readers, kids with reading disabilities. And Margaret's like, I have my master's. I have to constantly go and get more credits and all this stuff. So they're like, charter school teachers, they could have just a high school diploma and get hired. And they're not required to have any kind of education experience.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there are really great charter schools out there, and I am sure that there are very smart, dedicated people working at those schools, but I'm not convinced that taxpayers should be funding that.
No,
it should be for if it's not for everybody, then no.
If it's not for everybody, then no. Exactly.
That's my answer.
Ugh. Well, are you ready to hear about somebody who wasn't a creep?
Oh God, please.
Okay. So we've had some shootings recently here in the States. Most recently, El Paso, Texas, Dayton, Ohio, and Gilroy, California. Yeah. That broke my heart. The Garlic Festival.
Yeah, it's awful. And when you say recently, you mean every day. I feel like it's every day.
Yeah. I mean, 3 months from now, we're going to say a few different cities. Will be recent. I mean, it's sad to say. So Lady Gaga, and this is from cheatsheet.com. I don't know. They just found me on Google News. But she's decided that she's going to fund 162 classroom projects for areas that have been recently affected in those regions. And she said on her Facebook post, "My heart goes out to those who were taken from us too soon and to their families, loved ones, and communities who are left to grieve. Everyone has the right to laws that make them feel safe in their communities. In this movement, I want to channel my confusion, frustration, and fury into hope." And as a result, 14 classrooms in Dayton, 125 classrooms in El Paso, and 23 classrooms in Gilroy earn the funding they need to further the education for their students. And she also started a few years ago a campaign. She's a co-founder of the Born This Way Foundation, and she's out to help kids in the LGBTQ community and anybody that needs help. But it's really to help kids that are bullied and marginalized and to help them find their way in the world. So that is someone who is not a creep. It's Lady Gaga. She really cares.
She does really care. She's also a really outspoken advocate for sexual assault victims and their rights. Which and she sings "Shallow," which is one of my fucking favorites.
I know, and
that makes her a hero.
And she also really cares about mental health and people taking care of themselves and self-care and really looking out for others and being a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. And so that's why I wish she were a Department of Education secretary. I bet you goddamn well she could do a better job.
For sure, she could do a better job. I love Lady Gaga. She's good people.
She's really good people.
Thanks for that cleansing story. I feel better.
Everybody go listen to Lady Gaga when you're done with this and just think of good things. So that's it for this episode of What a Creep. We'll be back next week with a brand new creep. I think it's going to be a musician, Sonia.
Woo!
But not the one you might think, but someone who's inspired by him. Let's just say that.
Good call.
But you can find us at What a Creep on Facebook, on Instagram. Our email is whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. Please follow us on Twitter at CreepPod. Reach out, say hi, say if you like the show, recommend creeps to us. We love it when you do that.
Oh my gosh, they've been doing that on Twitter, and it's so fun.
And it's so much fun, and it's such a nice release.
Yeah, who's it? Kim is using the GIF of Annie Potts from Ghostbusters saying, "I got one." Just use that one. Just tag us and use that GIF. It's perfect.
And our hashtag is What a Creep. And Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at The Sonia Show, and you can find me at thesoniashow.com, and you can find both of us at dorkingout.com. And Dorking Out Show on Twitter, where we talk about less creepy things, mainly movies.
We talk about fun movies and we make each other laugh. We talk about people and make them laugh. And you guys, you can find me at Brooklyn Fitchick. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm mostly active on Twitter and Instagram. And my blog is brooklynfitchick.com. And guys, I guess we'll see you in the week. So in the meantime, don't be a creep.
Yeah, you guys, don't be a creep. Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.